Well, thank you for having me tonight. I understand you have been deep in Excel and databases, and you're probably looking for a live person and some great pictures and things. So I'm first going to tell you what we do to give you some perspective on how I come to some of the judgments we've made. So as you know from my introduction, I have a varied experience from being a journalist and competing in the way that you are now and understanding, you know, how are we playing in community and things like that, and who are we competing with? You know, am I competing with Sue Ann in Wisconsin for a story, or am I, you know, competing against another newspaper? And those are things that we deal with every single day. And since we got to start our product from scratch, we actually got to have a clean slate with no baggage, which was a luxury, but it's still in a competitive set. We still compete like you guys do. And so I'll share with you how we've balanced editorial and UGC. I'm gonna go through a whole bunch of stuff, but really this is, you know, this has got to be one of the most dynamic marketplaces, the most undefined. You know, it's for us to kind of play into and actually feed in where we want this focus to go. So literally, I'd love to have a lot of question and answer, because I can do everything from talk to you about link love, which if you don't know what that is, you will by the end, to you know, competing with other brands and trying to structure your pages in syndication, and does biz dev exist, and all of that good stuff. So Real Girls Media, our venture right now, we are a VC-funded company that seeks to elevate and empower the voices of women and girls. So we take the female sector with this play. The first brand that launched is Divine Caroline, and it's a site that's aimed at women 25 to 54. It is advertising supported, so I'll show you how we also harness community in our revenue stream as well. So we actually took it all on. So we'll see how we're doing in the end. So what we seek to do at the end of the day as a business is to validate, aggregate, and monetize. So basically online right now, it's all a balancing act, right? So we're validating content. We have editors who are writing from the first person. And by the way, as a takeaway, and if you're writing online, you already know this, if you include yourself as a first person, your traffic on that story is so much higher than if you speak authoritatively. We have reporters from the New York Times, Atlanta Monthly, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, et cetera, who had the same experiences before we recruited them over, that were getting higher traffic when they actually did that. So for us, we utilize bloggers, we utilize the everyday person, we utilize our editorial, and that's what we're validating the content with the brand. So the brand is aspirational, so Condé Nast for real people, right, with what we're doing. And it's targeted at women. You know, women will share anything, so we're trying to actually bring the coffee table experience that has existed in all of our lives, you know, the aunts, the sisters, the neighbors, everything they were saying at the coffee table, which basically after they read your stories in the newspaper, it generally spurred a lot of that discussion. It wasn't just gossip. And also now with politics, right, bringing the dinner table online. And those are some of the things that we're working on in community. And then the advertisers. They're dying to reach all of these people, and you know, that's what pays all our salaries at the end of the day and allows us to keep doing what we're doing. And they are so dispersed, right? So community and the blogosphere is so dispersed that we actually are also appreciating the fact that people may want to obtain this information just on the blog and not come to us, and so we're working on that as well. So Divine Caroline, basically the premise is that it's life in your words, right? So the brand is real women publishing like real pros. So we actually made a big, beautiful website and then told them that they could publish anything they wanted and that we would give them a complimentary proofread. So we're not copy editing, and we all know the difference. We're looking for there, then, now, et cetera. So they'll be proud of their article. But if you write your article in text, we're going to publish it, as long as it's not hateful, brochureware, and it's real. But if that's how you communicate, that's part of our proofread, not part of our copy edit. We have a lot of people who love to use ellipses. You know, we're really kind of promoting periods right now. But, well, it's like people write how they think online, and not everybody has a journalism degree. So it's our copy editor who copy edits everything that we do just, wants to put a bullet in her head a few times a week. But the other thing is we want women to have a voice, and not everybody wants a blog. So part of what we're doing is when we say we want to elevate the voice of women and girls is that people aren't marketers, right? So the small group of people at the end of the day that you're fiercely competing with for audience and that story know what they're doing, right? SEO does not come naturally as much as search engine optimization feels like it would be natural because it's organic search. It does not. It's time-based. The people you're competing with didn't publish a blog yesterday by accident. They were a long time. Yeah.
Quick question on your current slide. What does UGC stand for?
UGC is user-generated content. So about 5 years ago, we called it consumer-generated content, right? But the consumer is now actually the user who's actually both consuming and generating that content. So the term now that we all use is UGC. So in the early days of, so backing up about that 5 years ago was the cover of Time magazine, right? That said the year of you, right? Pandora's box, whew, they're out. You're never taking the voice away again. Everybody can get a blog. Everybody can, put a comment on a story pretty much at any point. So what was really out there though for women all this time was message boards and forums, right? Not full formatted stories, not a library of high-end art, not the usual pagination and things that you would expect from what would be called an article, right? We have 9 channels, and I'll show you that, and then we do have a staff of 11 people for what is the equivalent of 9 major magazines, right? And so when you talk about staff sizes, it's something that could be a little bit frightening, but we also built a system that allows our editors to actually run their magazines within the site. So technology doesn't do any of it. Actually, our editors do page layout, determine what's featured. They can set the widgets, to most recent, most trafficked, whatever they want, which really empowers them to utilize the community. So I'll give you some examples. The 9 channels for us, and I'm not going to give you a sales presentation, so just so you know what we're doing, how broad this is. We have 9 channels, 50 subcategories, and over 350 tertiaries. And we can make them and cancel them at will. So when we talk about finding out what works, I could change them here. We could change the homepage. We don't deploy anymore. We don't go fill out production orders. These are things that now our technology allows us to do in real time. And when you go from the database skills that you were learning today, this is how fast it's going to feed into real-time stories. And when you talk about citizen journalism, right, what you're turning out and what you're empowering these other voices with. Our site, for those of you who have not visited it, which I don't expect any of you have, Divine Caroline is basically a clean, well-lighted place for UGC, right? We give a proof. So we actually make sure it's not, somebody dropping their pants. We do allow cussing when it's used for expression and it's not hateful. Again, it's life in your words. Your words might not be my words, right? We do have people covering politics. We have UGC writers that are filing their stories straight from, the debate, for instance. We are not trying to be in the business of news, but our users are going to tell us what it is they want to actually publish. Whether it's going to be the best teething remedy known to man or the ultimate cure to hiccups, or it's going to be, talking about Obama and what's happening with his volunteers right on the ground. We do all kinds of formats. So I just wanted to humor you a little bit on this one. But, people speak with photography. People speak with pictures. They speak with audio. They podcasts, anything. This is actually a very funny story, but it's all photos. This is actually the Wedding Photo Journalists Association award winners. But some of the things that I'd like to point out is we are always reflecting what's happening on the community, always. And I think that that's something you've probably seen on your sites and completely across the web. And if you're not, it's something you'll probably see pretty darn soon into your sites, which is basically what are other people doing? What are other people reading? And we've done that kind of insularly you know, for the last few years. So there's people who aren't doing it at all, then there's people that are doing it just within their site. But what's really happening is starting to reflect what's going on everywhere else on the web. And we can talk about aggregators. Our content, you know, is both singular and group. So we do have columns, we syndicate, we're carried in, you know, magazines, as well as our own site. We do podcasts, we do widgets, we send all our stuff to Facebook and MySpace, and these are all the things that your producers or your web person is going to be doing for you to always get your content out there so that you can rise to the top. Something that we also do is we partner. So 71% of our content on our website is actually user-generated, so UGC. We also have over 200 partners that are both profit and nonprofit. So Bono's One campaign, Susan G. Komen, things that are very important and relevant to our audience. So when you talk about building a community, women don't like to be called things like, you know, labeled. Even a mom, after you've had your first kid and you're over that, like, hey, I'm a mom. You don't really want to be called that either, as you're just a mom. And by the way, I have 3 kids, so I can say that with some assurance. But they are very proud of badges, right? Like if I wear my pink ribbon, or if I do the Susan G. Komen walk, or if I did the AIDS ride, you know, I'm proud of that. Actually, I still have that damn number on my bike because I never want to ride it again. But, you know, and then we have very for-profit companies, Reed Communications with Variety.com, and they're syndicating their reviews to us because they want to get more awareness for their brands wherever the people are that will come back to them. One of the things that we also do is we, with our ad network, with our bloggers have influence and they're authorities, right? They've started to garner some attention, and they work hard at their content. So we also feature them when they've become partners with us. But again, we're always trying to create parity in the relationship with editorial partners, people in our ad network in the blogosphere. Yeah?
Do you pay your bloggers?
We do not pay anyone but our editors. We don't even share revenue with our partners. So it's very important to us that there is parity in the relationship. So here, I'll go through some of them. So user-generated, you publish, having a blast, you know, people are giving you comments, you're getting validated, your feedback, you get the email that says, congratulations, you're published, which for all of us, you know, we went to school to have that happen, so it's not quite the like, woo, you know, as it is for a regular user. And the minute they get that, they fire that off to everybody they know, right, to have them come look at their article. Partners, they're doing it for awareness, right? They have content that's just sitting there, right? Not everybody in the world is going to their sites. So how do they push some of that content out and bring people back? And so they're, instead of paying for advertising in a way, they're utilizing their content, so they're not compensated there either. Our editors are staff, so they are compensated. Our bloggers who can publish all they want as just a user, if they're in our ad network where we're helping them monetize their traffic on their blogs, which is very difficult because when you have even 50,000 people who are loyal, Madison Avenue is not calling you, right? You're just running long tail advertising, which is generally Google AdSense and some other networks. So you're not making a lot of money. So we're helping, again, bring those people in. And they do get paid for their traffic on their site. Does that help? And so if you guys, in the MySpace world of profile pages, right, one of the things that happened was every brand, including publishers who were striving to get more traffic, wanted to have, you know, their MySpace page. Now everybody wants their Facebook page, right? So now, you know, they canceled all the Facebook pages that they found that were companies, and then they said, oh crap, that didn't work, and now we've launched our ad model, so you guys can all come back and please put profile pages back up. And so now everybody's trying to build a brand within these social networks that eventually drive back. So it's not just widgets, but it's, you know, you are competing with people, right, as a brand as well as yourself and driving back. So our partners too have the same profile page as a user. So, and they can drive traffic out of their profile pages. We're totally cool with that. We also do that in our advertising. So as I told you, you know, we take this principle of balance between editorial UGC, community, and brand, and apply it all the way through. So even in this custom program for Pam, we're utilizing one of our bloggers, who is Jeremy Emerson, who is the executive chef for the Four Seasons, who runs a blog called Global Chefs. So he is, in a paid program where he's running ads on his blog, and he's also giving a testimonial and some usage for Pam. They are trying to be a member of the community too. Brands just want to get closer to a relationship with the user, and they want to become permanent there. And what's really interesting is most of them are kind of blowing up their websites and moving their contact strategy within the publisher sites, which I know really probably doesn't matter too much to you guys, but when we want to, we also utilize disappearing computer. I don't know, maybe I had something on that page. I don't know. It's fine. We use the testimonials of our users too. So the page that was coming in is a Biore page. So when we had Biore coming in to advertise, we have a message center where users can talk to each other. And so what we did is we asked them how many people use Biore products, and and asked if they wanted to be in an ad. You wouldn't believe how many people want to be in ads. I mean, the bloggers all want to be in ads too, which is kind of interesting. But our users, we asked them for a testimonial, and if they could send us a photo, we put them in, and so we did. So again, the strategy is to get everybody operating equally. The community has to have some balance. It's like a bad family relationship if you one person's favored child. So this was what you were asking on the compensation side. So this is Amy Ellen Clark's website. She's one of our bloggers. She does a site called momadvice.com. She is a stay-at-home mom who tells people how do you make their dollar go farther, and that's her specialty in her blogging world. And so when she runs our ad, we extend our advertising to her blog and pay her that way. We also run a syndication widget that links back to us, and she's in our parenting section, right? So if you belong to a magazine, you would have contextuality, which is important to her, because why would she want to just be in something that's all women? That's not going to help her drive traffic to herself and increase her value. So this is a chart that we could have so much controversy over. No one will ever agree what quadrant they are in, and if you ask each company, they'll throw themselves down to say that's not where they belong. So this is purely our view of the world, and we're not the center of the universe, but these are the tenets that we're trying to balance, okay? So for us, when we say, are we in check, we're asking ourselves if we are balancing brand and community, and whether we're balancing user-generated content and editorial. So even our widgets are set, technically on the technology side to balance how many articles per page and things that are happening to balance all of those pieces. This could be up for controversy now because there's a lot of editorial playing in Wiki, but if you look at what's happening when you have purely editorialized, with no community say, and then, it's interesting what's happening with the broadcasters. Look at the success of what's happened with Colbert, right? And how much community he's even built in television, right, through his website. All the submissions of everything from the Star Wars thing, to getting his name on bridges and voting and whatever he's doing, each week. I love his show. But, to American Idol, who's proven that the cell phone is the most powerful voting mechanism in history, right? I mean, millions of people vote each night. It's crazy. Coca-Cola is really happy with that sponsorship at this point. And, things that are completely community-driven. And one of the things that's interesting on a long-term business model when you're looking at sustainability and revenue is this site has had a lot of trouble monetizing themselves because, advertisers really want some protection that you're not, dropping your pants, and that they're, trying to give you a loan next to that content, that there's still some separation and some protection. So, with community, there's always this friend or foe battle, right? When it's working for you, everybody loves community. And when it's competing with you, everybody's really kind of scared of community. Are you an outside member of the community, or are you an inside member of the community? Will they allow you to belong? Do you want to belong? you know. There's a lot of friction with the changes that are happening online. And I think there's also a lot of possibility. So I want to take you through some of the things that we've thought of ahead of time for you tonight. One of the things from my journalism education and my life in media is that, you know, there was a continuum of time for each medium and the role that your content played in each. You know, radio could be phoned in, you know, TV added some pictures as fast as the van could get there. Newspaper was fully complete by the next day because they had a couple more hours. And if it was a well-researched story, you could lean back and read all of it and get a really well thought out investigative report possibly as well. Magazines, weekly or monthly, you know, book times were longer. Books, heck, it used to be 2 years, you know. There was 24 months ahead of time was the publishing schedule. And films and movies, you know, could be even longer. You could be pitching it for your entire life by the time you actually got it done. So one of the things that's happened now is digital kind of has gone and screwed it up for everybody who had it kind of all laid out with their timelines. It plays across all of these formats. And it's kind of up to us to decide how we're going to keep our relevancy and our role in all of these different pieces. I mean, we got documentaries launching every single day. We got current TV, you know, giving people points and giving them edit bays and things that would have prevented them from getting some of the higher quality broadcast content. You know, you've got, you know, online feeds, RSS. I mean, absolutely everything is making everything now, right? So you're competing with whoever is actually there, which has changed the game a bit. You know, one of the things that I find very interesting is the fact that Reuters and AP used to be our source, right, as journalists. And now it's everyone's source. Anybody can add an AP, you know, feed to their blog and become current. You know, that's an odd world to play in. We used to, you know, quote the guy from Reuters and do a little bit more expansive, and then we'd have our angle, and we would have our focus that matched the paper or magazine or venue that we wrote for or that we produced for. And now they have the same tools, right? So now that doesn't mean that everything has the same quality, but I think there's some surprising quality that's out there. One of the things that also bothers me about the web is finding where the freaking original source of content is. You know, I mean, you can be herded, funneled, sourced so many times. You know, the art of linking now is somewhat out of control. Anyone can write a paragraph and a half and then link to 3 different stories. Time can do an expansive story on bad foods and your arteries, and then, you know, an hour later somebody's linking to a piece of it and now promoting it and has better SEO and a better group of friends on one of the social networks and has taken all the traffic and sent it to them, and then don't worry, they source time, right? So, you know, it's like then they've sheared off part of their revenue stream and then just sourced to them. And that's if you're lucky. I mean, heck, half of the blog networks source each other 5 times down at the bottom. So you're like, source, you know, .com. Then that source says to the source they found it at. And then that source says, it's like, geez, who wrote this darn thing when it all started? You know, who actually is this voice that I can trust that actually got the facts and stats? People are buying off on stuff way upstream and not having the reliability of what they have grown up knowing, which was that you guys thought about it, talked to the right people, tossed out the stuff that was crap, and brought us a balanced article. So one of the things that I've been thinking about is what kind of things are happening in traditional journalism that is creating this conflict, you know? And there's a ton, right? So this is kind of what I've been thinking about. So versus fighting relevance. Do you win because you were first? I mean, good Lord, if I see another comment that says first, it's like, who cares? You know, have something to say, you know? But that's happening in content as well. So as much as we joke about it, find it irritating or whatever, it is something that is happening. So is it best to be first or complete? Because we never worried about first unless we were that organization, right? We worried about completeness on the newspaper side. And now, there's a fundamental difference happening there. I mean, radio, it was like, just let me know what's happening, traffic, weather, you know, news, breaking news, death, whatever, shooting. Pictures came later, possibly an interview, a little testimonial. Then, you know, we got the full-blown story and what was going to happen next, because next really never got put in the stories downstream. Now we have editorial versus community. So that's kind of, is it because I'm popular that my story rose to the top, or is it because it was the best story? And I think that this is something that we actually, as an industry, need to talk about and actually need to have a say in. Because I don't think the goal of journalism or UGC or users as a whole or community are looking for poorer grade information at the end of the day. They still want good information, right? And so we need to actually work hard to possibly make both of these have some sort of balance. Original content versus distribution, right? The writing sourcing thing that we were talking about. It's like, who the hell wrote it sometimes? And then who sourced it? And sometimes the person getting the best ad revenue and the most traffic is just simply sourcing it. Weblogs is somewhat of an example of that. There's a lot of actually original content on there, and there's a lot of sourced content. And it's been, you know, a very good mechanism both for their audience and for AOL. Destination versus syndication. So, of course, you're going to have, you know, a place where you hold all of your content, presumably. But are more people reading your content somewhere else? And how do you rationalize the value of that content somewhere else? We have widgets for everything, right? But they're not necessarily sitting in my venue, you know, but they're absorbing my content. So, you know, how do we write for widgets as well? You know, do we write a little bit something different? Because when I expect somebody to come and see all of my headline and all of the text that I'm starting and sitting and seeing all of it with the photo is much different than I think that if we were pro headline writers and we were making it much smaller with teaser content, right? Because it becomes an ad. These RSS feeds are just taking everything that's on the page and they're not working necessarily for you in that drawing your users to your content. Generalist versus specialist. You know, so should you know everything or should you be great at one piece? And this is something the blogosphere has been creating a lot of tension over. You have things like the Drudge Report. It's everything in news, right? And you have people like Amy Ellen Clark with Mom Advice, who's writing about one very specific thing. And I think that, you know, there's a bottom-up and a top-down strategy, which is like, am I going to give you everything? Am I trying to make your day on my site with absolutely everything I can possibly give you in representing Miami or Oakland or any other bit? Can I do that through syndication, or do I have to do that all by myself? So I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think online community means? This one's always fun because, you know.
People connecting with each other and to each other, speaking up on behalf of each other because they feel they have some sort of connection, they want to forge some sort of alliance, they feel some sort of tie.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty close to the Wikipedia answer, which is my definition. I do a little shorter, which is online communities are a collection of voices. And in general, if people want them to have interests that are shared, they tend to do that. They aggregate. Wikipedia this is just straight from the site. You know, it's a group of, it's interesting because online community is predicated on the use of technology, right? And that technology can be used by brands in a different way to group people. You know, you could become a community around just linking to other sites, right? Like social networking. There's definitely a very strong community on Dig, right? Or on StumbleUpon, which has a little bit more content that then you have your own blogs. Or Reddit, or, you know, and then you have communities that are more destination-based, like what we're trying to build, where you actually put something of yourself there. And so trying to create further stickiness there versus my reflection of my choices of other people's content. So one of the things that we've also talked a little bit about is, I believe that we're shifting from delivering the news to sharing your story. And your story doesn't mean necessarily your personal story, but you created this story, whether it's an investigative report, your article, right? But they want to hear it from your perspective a bit, which challenges our whole objective reporter, right? But if you see what's going on online, Huffington Post is a very good example. People are aggregating around people. You know, the days of the columnists who had the job forever, right? Once you got it, you know, you were there till you didn't want to write it anymore in some cases, is now changing into personalities. And these things are happening in news too. You know, Cooper on the front of, you know, what, Vanity Fair. Like, people are connecting to people. And that, as you said, community, and the fundamental piece of community is that people are choosing to obtain something from that person or that community that was built in and around that person or people. So how to utilize community? Let's have some takeaways, right? What can you do, right? What can you go home with and change possibly? And this is given that you have the infrastructure to do this, and some of the sites actually don't, and some of them do. I'm always disappointed when you guys don't get bylines. I am still completely frustrated by that. I don't understand that mentality at all online. It's so dated and so aged not to provide bylines. I want to know who it came with. Don't disconnect me from it, because that's all about people and community. And if I'm now just connected to the top level brand, I'm not buying in as strong. I'm not as committed. And that's just really something that's changing dramatically. So be a member. Hell, reply back to people who are commenting to your story. I want to engage. If you just blew the cover off of an investigative report in a hospital that I go to, I might want to actually give you something that helps you, right? What if I said, oh my God, I had that experience too, and I know. Wow, that's a hugely valuable comment in your comment field to your community and other readers. Reply back. So this is something that CNET is doing very, very well. If you look at the tech reviews and stuff, people, you know, criticize the writer all the time. Where'd you get this? You know, dude, that's not the best phone in history, or blah, blah, blah. And the writer replies in, well, actually, I did this, and this is the one I found. I'll definitely consider what you said, and I've seen that happen. Hugely valuable. You don't just have this criticism out there. Now that guy's like, hey, thanks, and he's like totally turned, and he wants to be a part of your story. You know, people put themselves out there, and you can really make a hugely powerful, you know, story even better just by coming back into it. Long gone are the days where we wrote something, turned our back, and went right to the next thing. You know, it's there, people are there, and they expect you to be there. Also add to your story. Updates are great. People come back, trust me. Reflect community activity. This is something that's beholden upon your producers and your site managers, but as you guys go back and fight the fight with all the intelligence that you've gotten from the last few days, you know, having most read stories, most commented, letting people know what's going on, these things are fabulous. They'll tell you how people are reacting to your story, which is incredibly important. You know, a lot of sites don't provide their writers any analytics. You know, that's not helping you write better stories for a community that you're all trying to build together. So your community also wants to know what's going on. So this can be done through commenting, if you have a liked it feature, which is something that we do. You can feature activity on your site, which through tags, you know, what's the most popular topic that's going on right now, and counts. You can also feature activity off your site. So almost everything's through an open API now, and so you can actually say, you know, if your organization is sending your content around the globe, you know, maybe on your site you're wondering how it's doing. What if you just lit up, you know, another site where your widget is and your content is at? You surely would like to know, and your community would really like to know, because maybe there's not that many people that, maybe you have, you know, a couple 100,000 users, subscribers, circulation, et cetera. But you know, you may have just reached 2 million people who are just think that, you know, what you did was the best thing ever. And by the way, one of our top viral pieces was a video on hotel drinking glasses, investigative report. And 75% of the 2 million people who watched that thing, and it went around the globe so many times, I can't even tell you. I've received it in newsletters for like most random things ever, is that, you know, it's something that this reporter did, put out for syndication, and how are they supposed to know that 2 million people just saw that through Bright Cove? Their organization's not reporting that back to them, right? They're hugely popular. Their organization should be doing follow-ups. They should have 5 more stories on, you know, hotel drinking glasses. They should be, you know, talking to us about some of the comments or reading the, you know, 100 and something comments that are on the story of past executives from hotels saying, that's totally true, you know, and like, which is also very scary. But there's a reason why people watch 75% of it. The woman goes to the bathroom with your glass and a glove, and you're like, she's gonna flush the toilet, I know it. And she does, so everybody like has to watch that she cleaned your glass in a toilet. But so you really should know what's going on elsewhere too, because it's incredibly empowering. It helps you with story selection and some other things. Yeah, so by the way, takeaway, don't drink the glass. Coffee maker, whoa, way worse, don't do that either. Things have never been cleaned. Allow community voices as well. So at minimum, your story should have comments. You seal them off, you're missing huge opportunities to hear from people. You guys aren't, you know, creating chemicals. You want to hear from your users, right? You don't know necessarily what they're thinking, which is what most of the chemical manufacturers already know. They don't like them and they don't need to hear from them. But you gotta have some feedback. And they should be able to email you, you know, and most everybody does accept email now. Sometimes your organizations, depending on your task within your organization, if you're out in the field so much that this would just kill you, you know, have it sent to your editor. Let your editor, you know, give you some help. Have an editorial assistant read through it. You know, have a different box set up and have people feed you what you need to know as well so that you can still do your job. It's not a only thing. Also, let them contribute to some of the content. You know, most major newspaper sites have just this year come around to this. You know, the torch went through San Francisco. Upload your photo. We don't know where the hell it's going. You know, they're changing the routes every time. Somebody's got a cell phone somewhere. Take a shot of it and send it up. You know, and empower the user to be on your side and bring you some of that information versus just competing with their blog necessarily. They'd love to have it up on SFGate, right? And they do, and they did get photos, and when it went up Van Ness and everybody else was standing on the Embarcadero, they did get some shots. And then also, you know, share some stories too. There's some great examples of, you know, adding to it. Were you there? Tell us what happened. You know, you filed the whole piece. Now, get some other feedback.
Yeah, on the adding comments to stories, I know a lot of organizations are doing that now, and I think a lot of us are wondering how to get, you know, people from, you know, flame wars on those things and people just going off, and I mean, we appreciate that people are actually interacting with the story and adding thoughts, but usually a lot of times it could be generated into, you know, subject matters have nothing to do with the story.
Oh, certainly.
Or libelous or something.
Yep.
So how do you sort of...
Well, you should have a community policy, right? Which, how you know, what you'll allow. Not everybody allows links put in. Not everybody allows, you know, caps or, you know, shouting or whatever they want to say that their community guideline is. You should always have report as offensive, if, you know, so that your community can tell you this is just, you know, this is rude and shouldn't be there. There's an interesting thing though with community, is it'll police itself. If you get, there is a minimum threshold of needing users to do that. I mean, 1 or 2 out there is not going to police itself, but you all have circulation feeding in from your publications. And the community will come down on the community, which is very interesting. I mean, we have stories that I'm like, oh, I wish I could delete those 10 comments in a row. At the same time, they're the ones who end up looking bad. Users will come back in and start their own comment string again and get over it. We care a lot more than the user does about what those comments, the irrelevant comments are. They just stream right through them. It's amazing. We've done a lot of research on usability. So, you know, it's our story, it's our baby. We did something with it, and now we're like, what's this dude wasting his time talking about whatever and linking to this or that, or he doesn't get it. You know, I mean, that's the things that we say. And actually, when our users agree, they defend it. There's nothing better than a user defending your position or what you filed. And that just adds so much. So I would fear not some of the irrelevant stuff. The users, you know, they know it's irrelevant. You know, they're pretty intelligent, and if it bothers them, they tend to say something. And then the other thing is if you're wrong and you get called out, it's a great opportunity for you to get back in there and say something. And again, my CNET example is exactly that. They review, you know, tons of hardware. They have a whole lab, the whole bit. You know, one guy was like, "Hey, this is not right. You know, when I drop mine, it breaks." Oh, go back to the lab, drop one. Oh, it broke. Crap. We can amend that story. You know, and they were better for it. So I wouldn't worry about the like infrequent lame ones. It really doesn't affect you and your credibility at all. And you should moderate everything. I mean, there's, you know, nothing should be left completely open because you'll just get robots or, I mean, you'll get, if you don't have high security, you'll get some lame stuff that's not even personally created. User syndication. So let your users tell other people about your content as much as humanly possible. They will bookmark the living crap out of everything you have if you just give them the tools to do it. You know, these things are free. You know, if you just did the best story ever, you know, your users will know it, and they have the tools to get your content out there. You don't need your biz dev team or your marketing team or, you know, with all the stories that are filed with hoping that the one press assistant is getting your story out, you know, who's probably an intern, who actually probably has a more powerful Dig or Stumble account than any of us in this room, who can actually get this out. But your users are your best advocate. They are your best release into this broader world. And so at minimum, have the thing called the Add This button. At maximum, your organization should broker deals with some of these top trafficked networks so that your content is appearing there automatically. Query. You know, it's a perfect opportunity, you know, to allow them to tell you what they care about most. So you can get some phenomenal story tips. You know, not just everything from the broadcast call the newsroom and the desk or the assignment desk or leave you messages, but on the site, there should be an editorial assistant or somebody going through the site and reading comments and seeing where trends are and what people are starting to care about and assigning out from there. You can really take a lot from the users. You know, there were at least 6 completely different, very profitable, well-trafficked trends that came off of, you know, Time telling everybody it was good to think about, you know, bad food. You know, I can't even tell you how many bad food, artery cloggers, you know, poison chemicals, every which way you could think about food, plus turning it around and saying, well, what should you eat, you know, and what is available there, too, which restaurants will kill you, you know, because they have such, you know, we had one story where it's, you know, 2,100 calories for French fries. It's a side. Who thinks that they did that themselves? You know, but these are things that you can, it's never been done, right? So when we compete locally, we kind of say, oh, they did food. Food got done. We're all dying. You know, and online, you can take these angles very quickly and get back in. And people really like to take related stories, right? So I read a little bit about this, now I want to read a little bit more, and so you can really start a lot of follow-on stories, which are phenomenal. So some practical examples of what's happening in news organizations. My head of strategy, give her a little credit, grabbed all of these screenshots for me as I was running out. So they're current news that's going on right now, and it's showing what some people are doing on the aggregation side, right? So don't author it at all, just, you know, link to everybody else's story. Op-eds and where strong voices are coming in and how well op-eds are doing, you know, online. Again, it's the affinity with a person and their topic, and they want to know who you are. You are your best advocate for your story. You know, whether you're doing an op-ed or you're doing an investigative piece, knowing who you are and where you come from is critically important. And it is, you know, something that we have bylines for everybody. Goes to their profile page. A lot of people click the bylines. We don't say, go look at this person. You know, it's not a big call to action. People want to know who whose content they're absorbing. And they're going to want to know even more as some of the quality of the content dips, right? Because anybody and their brother can cover anything right now. So really, you got to get yourself out there and who you are. And then some traditional venues and what they're doing, kind of what the BBC and CNN and how they're bringing in citizen journalism and how they're making it work for them. And then some pure citizen journalism on their destinations, right? So, and how they've kind of changed the game. And I'm going to zip through them because I would really like to just have an engaged discussion from here on out. And I heard we have a connection, so we could do literally anything, I guess, at this point. So, are you all familiar with the Dredge Report? Your marketing people are. If you have them, they're dying to get your link on the Dredge Report. He does not author anything. Sometimes he's even putting things up that don't have a link yet, right? Because people are just waiting to see when the story is going to be filed and where it's going to go. These links go everywhere around the world. Everything from, you know, UK Mail to CNN to a blog. And what he's doing is basically letting you see his personal page, right? In effect. These are all the things that I care about, right? And I'm faster than anybody else because I've just decided that I'm going to be the news feed, right? And he's doing an incredible job at it. And you wouldn't know who he is or anything if he hadn't started to appear on television. And now everybody's still trying to guess where his political views are, and they're still not sure, right? He's the